Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's your brother Joshua back with another quick coffee break and a quick exhortation for the brothers and sisters in the truth. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Right, and I want to make a quick exhortation video on, praying for your brother in secret. A lot of times our brothers and our sisters are going through many things in life, right? Many things in life, right? And, sometimes we need help, right? We need help. We can't fight this fight alone. We can't, go through things and take things upon our shoulders. A lot of times it gets stressful, in this walk, or, you may be dealing with infirmities and things like that. But it's a beautiful thing to pray for your brethren. It is a righteous thing to pray for your brethren, and when I say we pray in secret, meaning that, we do these things for our brethren because we love them, and we lift up our brethren before the Most High. And we all often, pray for, like I said, things that we may not know that they're going through. So it's a beautiful thing to have your brothers back in these last days. And it's a commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. So, you can't always pray for what you want and what you need and things like that. It is a beautiful thing to offer up an offering before the Most High for your brethren or your sister, through the Spirit. And it's often done in secret. You don't have to make it a spectacle. You don't have to be wide open in the world that all eyes can be on you. You're laying hands, you're pouring oil down their head, and you're speaking in tongues and all this type of stuff, so-called. No, the Lord said, pray to me in secret, and he reward you openly. Let me get that precept real quick in the book of Matthew, right? It's the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 5, and it reads, "And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." Right? So when you praying for your people, and even yourself, you want to go in your closet. It doesn't literally mean you have to find a closet and prepare it, and go into it. No, you want to be alone. You want to have a, clear your mind, be focused, get in the spirit, and you want to have a one-on-one with the Most High and make your inquiry before the Lord, your supplication before the Most High. And a lot of times, like I said, you may be praying for a brother or a sister, and you may not be knowing what they go through, but just a simple prayer to throw up, for them. You may see them, down, stressing throughout the week and things like that, and they may not, specifically come out and say, well, I'm dealing with this or I'm dealing with that. Can you pray for this or pray for that? Because a lot of times a prideful spirit can come on a brother and sister, and they don't want to, so-called bring out those things that they're going through, or they may be a little embarrassed or something like that. But as, a fellow Israelite, you want to, observe and examine the situation and just make your supplication before the Lord, because that's when the Spirit steps in and, it makes intercession for you. The Lord knows what they're going through. So once you throw up a prayer and you ask for healing for this brother or this sister, or the Lord to visit them with peace and, things of that nature, the Lord knows what's going on. So he's going to take heed to that prayer, and the Spirit is going to make intercession with that. Right? And let's get that real quick out the scriptures. Let's go to the book of Romans real quick, right? Right? It's the book of Romans, chapter 8. right? In the book of Romans chapter 8 and verse number 26, it says, likewise, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities. For we know not what we should pray for as we ought, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. So sometimes when things can't be spoken out loud or uttered, or, like I said, you're embarrassed, or you don't want to speak up and tell someone, what you're dealing with, your financial, things, or whatever it is, any type of sickness or whatever it is, something going on in your home, or, you might not, be a little bashful with that. But, a brother may see that in a distance and say, I examine that matter and I see that my brother's going through something, and I need to take, matters in my own hands, and I need to go before the Lord and make intercession. I need to offer up my brother before the Lord so he can be healed. The Lord said a righteous brother's prayer is going to be heard amongst the Most High, right? And let me not paraphrase that. Let me get this real quick. The classic, man, in the book of James, a fervent prayer, man, of a righteous man, it availeth so much, in the eyes of the Lord, because the Lord sees that. He says, hey, this brother loves his brother as himself, and he's going to come before me and make, supplication for his brethren so he can be healed. This is the book of James, chapter 5 and verse 16. It says, confess your faults one to another and pray one for another that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Right? So it avails much. It avails much. Meaning it's successful. Right? It goes upon the ears of the Most High. He hears those things. Right? A fervent prayer. A prayer that's, a prayer that's constant, and you're into it. You're really fervent about this thing. You're on fire about this thing. And you go before the Most High, and you're, contrite heart. You're humble, and you go and confess these things before the Most High. Hey, the Lord said, a fervent prayer of a righteous man, it availeth much. So when you pray in secret, the Lord can reward you openly by putting the Spirit on that brother to bring him out of whatever distresses or whatever it is that, that brother's dealing with at that time, whatever it is that, the brother or the sister may be going through. You can start to see brighter days, more smiles, a lot more, effort being put out, or, just being upbeat through the Spirit, things of that nature. That's the reward of the Most High, starting to see those things change, those walls being broken down, that spirit being taken off of them, and putting on the spirit of, gladness and righteousness and things of that nature. So it's a mighty thing to do that and exhort, one another through prayer, even if they don't know it. It's definitely intercession been made, right? Let me get another precept. I think it's let's go to let's see, Salakia, bear with me. I believe it's 1 Timothy. I think that's the book of 1 Timothy chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, I exhort therefore that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. All right? See that? So it says the exhortation, the supplications, prayers, and intercessions, and giving thanks. Sometimes you can just go before the Most High and give thanks to the Lord and say, the water Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for, the brothers I labor with, the water for the gifts you've given those brothers, the time that I've spent, the spirit you're giving them, the increasing, all these things. Just give thanks to the Most High for your brothers sometime, man. Just love on the Most High, so you can love on your brother at the same time, making intercession for them, because like I said, the Lord can, turn up that spirit in those brothers, man, or those sisters, and, really turn a bad situation to a good situation, or even give extra life to a brother, or a sister that's falling away, falling out of the truth, or, not knowing which way they should go, or, all these things. The Lord is always, available and ears wide open to those that are doing his will, those that are diligent, those that are fervent, those that are contrite, and, humble and want to be, do well for their brethren. So it says, I exhort, therefore, the first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. So you want to do these things that they're made for all men, and you want to be able to, like I said, quote unquote, just taking care of your brother, man, and that's the end all be all, is taking care of your brother, and that's what we do in these last days to make sure that, that we continue to, make effort or headway through this walk, because this is a real strenuous walk at times, man. The Lord said, through much tribulation we shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. So we have to endure through all these trials and tribulations, but sometimes it can feel like, these things are very overwhelming, that we may not be able to, handle the things alone, So, we definitely want to, be there for one another for sure. Let's get the book of Colossians chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, for this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that ye might be filled with the knowledge of his will, in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that ye may walk worthy of the Lord, unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of Yahweh, strengthened with all might, according to his glorious power, unto all practice, all patience and long suffering with joyfulness. So that's what we want to pray for. We can't cease to pray for it, because that's actually a sin to not pray for your brethren. That's matter of fact, let me get that real quick while I'm thinking about it. I believe it's First Samuel. But that's what we want to do, is we want to, exhort our brethren to continue to grow in the faith, be strong every day, and make it through, through the Spirit, ultimately increasing in knowledge and in the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Right, so this is 1 Samuel chapter 12 and verse number 23. It says, moreover, as for me, Yahweh forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. Right? So we don't want to cease to pray to the Most High for our brother. The Lord said pray without ceasing. Right? So we always want to have our brethren and our sisters in our minds and our hearts to, uplift them, make sure everything's good. Basically, bearing one another's burdens is exactly what it is. Just like Galatians say, and I'm not going to paraphrase that, but, that's what we have to do, is bear one another's burdens, man, because that is fulfilling the law of the Most High, man. Right? See, this is Galatians chapter 6 and verse, I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of a Mashiach. See that? So you want to bear one another's burdens, man. That's fulfilling the law, man. Loving your neighbor as yourself. That's what that means. Loving the Most High. Keeping the commandments. That's what that going into, is loving your neighbor as yourself. Fulfilling the law, man. You want to walk like Christ. That's the whole point of this thing, is to be like Yahushua. Yahushua, you know, he was always looking out for his brethren. He was humble. He was meek. He was long suffering. He was gentle. He was praying for us constantly. You know, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You know, he took on our sins, you know, things of that nature, shed his blood. So, you know, how much more should you be fighting for your neighbor? You know, especially one that's drowning, you know, and is drowning and going through things you may not even know of. But you took it upon yourself to examine that matter, man, you know, and you fought for your brother, right? Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse number 1. It says, we then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves, right? And it says, let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. So we always want to bear the infirmity of the weak, man. You know, some of our brothers are not as strong as others, man. Some of my brothers are not, you know, is not equipped with, you know, the wisdom that some brothers have. A lot of brothers can't just go to certain precepts, you know, it won't pop up in their mind or whatever when they're feeling low or they need some type of exhortation or whatever. But they don't know behind closed doors that mighty brother that labors beside them. Hey, man, in the nighttime, man, in the midst of the darkness, he's in the room on his knees begging the Lord to forgive him for his sins. He's begging the Lord to bless him, you know, put his angels around him, protect him, you know, give him his grace and mercy, you know, to build and increase that brother up. And then next thing you know, you turn around, hey, man, 6 months later, this man is mighty, coming out with precepts after precepts, man. He's fervent, he's on fire, you know, he's stronger than ever, all because you prayed for that man, you know, and you put your time down and you offered up your offering before the Most High for him, man. And hey, you know, it's a beautiful thing. And we've all seen it before, you know, brothers being down in the dust and going through things and, you know, struggling in the mind or, you know, fleshly desires and things of that nature. And brothers get to praying and praying and praying for them. And next thing you know, next week, hey, man, that brother, hey, how you been this week, man? I've been on fire. I don't know where it came from, but the spirit came out of nowhere. And I've been on fire. You know, it's like I feel good in the spirit, you know. And that's what you want to hear, you know, hey, bearing one another's burden, because a lot of times we cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone, you know, and I want you to show me any brother that has ever walked in this truth and however long he's been in it and it's been by himself. It's been an individual like, you know, and it's just laboring alone every day, day in and day out, and ain't nothing happening. Ain't nothing wrong with him. He's on fire 24/7. You know, he ain't never dealing with no infirmities. His mind is always good. So on and so forth. You got to show that, man. You got to prove that. The Lord say prove all things. You got to show that. I'm here to tell you right now, hey, look, you're not going to find one, man. The mightiest of the mighty, you know, struggles. You know, sometimes the mightiest of the mighty struggle. You know, and they need that brother to pick them up. You know, I always use that example when Moses, man, when he was, you know, they were fighting, you know, and they told him, look, Moses, lift up your hands in the air, you know, and as long as your hands are lifted up, you know, hey, you're going to prevail. You're going to, you know, overcome your enemy. But, hey, Moses got tired, man. Moses' hands start to drop. It took, you know, two brothers to grab him up and hold his hands up, man, and make sure he was good. And make sure his hands stayed strong and firm and in the air toward the Most High so they continue to prevail. Because when his arms went down, hey, guess what? The enemy started to prevail, man. Right? So we need each other. You know, let's go to the classic real quick, man. Go to the classic. Right? The book of Ecclesiastes. Right? The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4 and verse number 9. And it reads, 2 are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up. So if one fall, he has to have that backup. He has to have that righteous brother on the side of him, man, to help him up. And he might not even know that brother's battling, you know, in the background for him. He may not even know that. You know, but this brother's at home throwing up mighty prayers for his brother, making sure he's going to make it through the next day, making sure the rest of his week is going to be mighty, man, making sure his household is together, you know, making sure his, his sickness is healed, all these type of things, man. He's throwing up prayer after prayer after prayer, man. And next thing you know, this man come out on fire, man. He come out more stronger than he's ever been because he had a strong brother that had his back, you know, and that's what we have to have. That brother that's fighting for you in secret, man, when you don't know it. That brother been fighting for you for a long time in secret, and he never told you because he don't want that credit. He don't need that credit. The credit is going to come from the Most High. The reward is going to come from the Most High. But he's not expecting the credit. He just wants to see well within you. And that's the brother you want to be around with. The brother that's in secret fighting for you, man, openly, you know. Let's get one or two more. Let's go to Sirach chapter 6. Right? Let's get this one right here, because this is a mighty one right here, man. Right, this is the book of Sirach chapter 6. And I'm starting verse number 14. It says, a faithful friend is a strong defense, and he that hath found such as one hath found a treasure, man. Nothing doeth countervail the faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable, man. Right? So, hey, a faithful friend, hey, he's going to war for you, man. He's going to war for you, man. Let me read that again. It says a faithful friend is a strong defense. He's a strong defense, man. He's that watchtower to see that enemy when that enemy's coming far off. Man, he done seen that. Hey, and he pulled out his sword. And he fought the enemy for you. The enemy that you didn't even know was coming. When you was at your weakest point, it tells you that, hey, Satan, he cometh to devour. You know, he cometh to devour. And if you know Satan like a roaring lion, you know a lion, when you watch National Geographic, lions don't really, per se attack the most mightiest gazelle or the biggest wildebeest. No, they lurking behind to see that scraggly one that's left behind, that's trotting by himself. You know, he's going through something. He's fighting. He's tiptoeing. He might be, injured a little bit. He done been ran over by the big ones a little bit, But yet, they coming to swarm him and surround him. Hey, and here come the rest of them beasts coming to, hey, look, stand up for him. Put that shield, that wall around him. And that's what a mighty brother does in secret. He sees that enemy from afar. And he pulls that sword out of that sheep, man, and he let him know, you're not doing anything with my brother, man. I'm going to stand 10 toes down for my brother until the end, And that's what the Lord is looking for. So it says a faithful friend is a strong defense, and he that has found such of one hath found a treasure. Nothing doeth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable. And it says, a faithful friend is a medicine of life, and they that fear the Lord shall find him. So if you are fortunate enough to have a brother that's mighty like that, that's laboring with you and walking with you through this life and ready to go to war with you, man, hey, fight for that brother, man. Stand 10 toes down for him. Pray for him in secret. Love on your brethren. We have to in these last days because it's way too many of us. Way too many of us that are falling away. Way too many of us that are waxing weak in these last days. Way too many of us that are fighting so many spirits, man. And brothers can't do it alone. Let me get this last one real quick. I'm going to stay in Sirach, right? Sirach 37. Ecclesiasticus chapter 37. In verse 12, and it reads, but Be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahweh, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So you want to be that brother that's going to sorrow with your brother when you see him miscarry, when you see him fumble, when you see him trip, when you see him going through things, man, when you see him fighting in the dark, and when he can't voice what he's going through to you, you go to your secret place and you cry out to the Most High for your brother, right? But with that, I hope it was edifying. You take these precepts and apply them to your life. Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Shalom.